Hey, how you doing this afternoon? My name's Arthur Gallagher. I'm going to speak a little bit loud because I'm doing this on my home computer, um, and I don't have much experience making videos. I did a video a couple of minutes ago on this subject, and I'm not going to use it because no one can hear my voice. All right. So hopefully, I will get the sound down to where it should be. Now, the subject of this video is going to be bow ties. I own hundreds of bow ties. Though, to be honest, I seldom wear them. Wear them a few times a year, but I find with ties, you wind up having way more than you strictly need because you want to pick the right one for that occasion. Okay? Now, most people are intimidated and put off by bow ties because they think it's going to mark them as artsy or liberal or even conservative. You know, Tucker Carlson used to wear bow ties, and he said the reason that he stopped wearing bow ties, it was like having a middle finger permanently attached to his throat. You know, a lot of people are offended by them. I had a guy at work told me, he came up to me, I was wearing a bow tie, and he said, my father told me never trust a guy who wears a bow tie. But he would make an exception in my case because I didn't wear them all the time. Why did I wear them? Well, I wore them if I was going out to dinner after work, and I generally would try and change my outfit. Generally, you couldn't always do that. Sometimes I had to go in the suit, but I didn't like wearing my work clothes to dinner, and I didn't like having clothing on that made it difficult to eat. And we all have problems getting stains in our neckties. I go to a lot of functions in my line of work, and I found that the bow tie was a practical solution. And so that's normally when I wear them, very seldom in the morning, very seldom at work. Um, if I had any important meeting, like a job interview or going to see the judge, that's what I do, I'm a lawyer, or picking a jury, there's no way I would borrow a tie. In fact, I've done that. I've run back and I borrowed a tie from someone. Not everybody gets them, but you know what? You dress for yourself, you know, within reason. And I just like wearing them to dinner. And a big practical aspect of that is you're not going to get anything on them, right? So you might mark yourself out as having certain attributes, but it's not fair, and you got to live your life. Okay. Now, that's my rule for hats too, but that's not the subject of today. But people in America since the 1960s, liberation, hippie, free love, since that time, people have become such conformists. It's like a uniform, and maybe the younger people aren't subject to that as much. But guys my age, I mean, they dress a certain way, and if you don't dress the way they dress, there's something wrong with you. Well, I say that's not what we're here for. I dress for fun, and I dress to please myself within limits. You know, during the daytime at work, I tend to wear a four-in-hand tie, a regular necktie. I understand that, and I don't mind them. I have a lot more of those, and I like them quite a bit. But let's get into neckties, all right? First thing I want to make clear to you is there's different kinds, okay? This is the kind that I wear. You tie it yourself. Now, when I was a little boy, we wore this kind, clips on. And there's a story behind this tie. I found this at the old guard of the city of New York, and somebody made the foolish decision to throw a lot of things away. And we had crates of these, hundreds of them, in either white or black. And the purpose of them was, is if you showed up at the ball and you didn't have the correct kind of necktie on, they would sell you one. All right, and to me, you really, it's very important if you're going to a black tie event to wear black tie. And if you're in the dress circle, you wear white tie. That's just the way that it is. And these rules are traditional, and I think they're beautiful. So you might need one of these, and clip-on can be handy. There's nothing wrong with clip-on. I mean, maybe if you're wearing them to work in the daytime, you might get a few stingers, but an awful lot of guys wear it. It's not like breakaway bow ties, clip-on, breakaway neckties rather, four-in-hand ties that clip-on. They're very cheesy. And I think the only grown men I know that wear them who aren't absolutely hopeless are the police, because they break away. I wondered why they issued me with that kind of a tie, and then I found out it's because you can't get pulled in by someone grabbing a hold of a tie that comes off. But when it comes to bow ties, look, you can wear a clip-on. Here's another kind, very common, where the bow is on the end, right? See that? You got to forgive me. I don't customarily make videos, so I have to practice how to do this. Guys wear them. There's no reason, because at the end of the video, I'm going to try and demonstrate how to tie a bow tie. All right, and if I can do it, anyone can do it. All right, it's simple. It's just like tying a shoe. Okay, so let me go through different types of bow ties. First of all, there's the width. Now, there are some widths. Yeah, my mirror image. See, that's a very wide bow tie. That is from the 1970s. And it's in pristine condition. I got it at a church sale, of all places. I don't know if, anyone ever goes to them, they bring them by, it's like a bazaar. They sell stuff to raise money for the church. They don't raise much money, but it's fun. And here's an example of a very narrow one. Okay, this one here is a very narrow tie because it's from the 1950s. Okay, and this belonged to my buddy Robert Peterson, a wonderful man, saintly man, Lieutenant Colonel Peterson. Back when he was young, he was in the 7th Regiment in New York, and they had their very own ties. This is in black, and this is a narrow one. And this one is in red. I got this from the organization. The red one is the more common one. And they're both authorized by the 7th Regiment. Veterans now, the regiment's gone. And they're both, if you'll forgive me, they're both, there I have it. They're both made by Brooks Brothers. Brooks Brothers ties, because that's the kind of people the 7th Regiment were. When my father was there, before he joined the active component for the war, they were socialites, and they were very patriotic people. Now, my father wasn't a socialite, but he was acceptable, because he came from a good family, good manners, went to Bishop Dubois High School. The old-time WASPs that ran the 7th Regiment, they loved kids, Catholic school kids. They recruited at like Power Memorial and those kind of places. And my friend Robert got invited there for dinner. They wanted to meet him. And he was also well-mannered and a beloved man. Everyone that to know him was to love him. And he was allowed to join on the strength of the fact, even though he was from Elton Avenue in the Bronx, that he had a heart murmur. And 4 of his brothers, I think, were World War II veterans, and he had a heart murmur, which means they knew one thing that pleased them greatly. He wanted to be in the regiment. He was not avoiding the draft, because he was already exempt from the draft. So they welcomed him with open arms, and he eventually became a first sergeant. Funny reason why, he was really staff sergeant, but the actual first sergeant got caught sneaking professional chefs to summer camp, and the division already sent word that was not to continue happening. The Army cooks were to cook, The National Guard cooks where to cook, and you can leave Chef Pierre back at the Ritz Carlton or whatever. And so the first sergeant got the sack, and at the last minute, Robert was stuck in as a first sergeant. I think it's because they had other guys that could have done the job that probably more in seniority, but he was a very honest man, so they knew he wouldn't pull a fast one. Now, next tie I want to show you, let's just show you some organizational ties. Okay, here's another organizational tie. Let me see if I get it up close. That's the coat of arms. Forgive me for not being able to see my face. That's the coat of arms of Ludwig von Mises, who was like the dean of the Austrian School of Economics, and I think he was a great man. And he was a mentor to Friedrich von Hayek, who dropped the von in England. He was von Hayek. He came from a remarkable family. I think his cousin was Wittgenstein or somebody. I mean, he was a smart cookie, and he wrote The Road to Serfdom, von Hayek, and well, he was a protege of von Mises, and I read some of von Mises. I recommend him, but I never wear that tie because I got it as a professional sample, and because I was having ties made for another organization. And I think it would be cheesy of me to wear it because I've never made a donation to the Von Mises Institute. So ties can signify an organization you're in. On that note, here's a tie that could possibly indicate a family connection or a regimental connection. Or it could just be a Christmas tie, which is what it was when I bought it. It came with a vest. I think it came with a vest. We forget now. This tie is Tommy Hilfiger. No, this didn't come with a vest. That's a different time thinking of the Scottish tartan. Okay. I'm not sure what the red one is. The black watch one. Oh, there's a little bit of food on that. I said I never got. That must have happened after I took it off. I said you can't get food on a bow tie. It's reversible, and it's nice, and it's good Christmas ties. So you got themes. You got themes on ties, but this could also signify what family you belong to, or what regiment of the British Army you were in, or whatever. How about ties for occasions? There's a lot of special occasions you might need a tie. This one would be good for the morning. Okay. This one, also good for the morning. This one, good for the morning. You can't really see. It's silver. It's really silver and blue. This one's like a wedding tie, but also really for the morning. And once again, for the morning, right? So for the time of day might matter, because obviously with an evening tie, you're probably going with a black tie. There's all sorts of imaginary rules. Well, do they have to match your lapel? It's all nonsense. I think if you try and wear a tuxedo with anything other than a black bow tie, though, you're on thin ice. Never wear it with a four-in-hand tie. Ever, because you look like a boob, and you'll be hunting down photographs from that event for years, so that nobody could see you do it. Yeah, you got to wear black unless. I mean, I've been to St. Patrick's Day dinner where I wore a green one, and things along that nature. You wear them in tartan or you wear them whatever, but I mean, generally, you don't go crazy with black tie. You try and be conservative and stick pretty close to the black and white, unless it's the summertime, and then you're back. It's 1972 all over again. Go crazy. Just don't ever wear a four-in-hand tie. It's not the topic, but I'll tell you, you're better off in a pastel-colored dinner jacket than you are with ruffles even, than you are with a four-in-hand tie. if it's supposed to be black tie. All right? Now, although it doesn't have to necessarily be black, uh, these are polka dot ties, right? There's one. Here's another one. This one's kind of an ugly color. This one very nice, big dots. Very much reminds me of Winston Churchill. And it's a good maker. Bow Ties of Vermont. They make a nice product. Here's another one, sort of Winston Churchill-ish. Although not as much. That one I think is the actual pattern they used to wear. Okay, so they're nice. They go very well with business attire, if indeed you're willing to wear a bow tie with business attire. And then there are the summer bow ties. Okay, summer bow ties. This is another one from Bow Ties of Vermont. J Press. I think that's the first summer bow tie I ever bought. This Hilfiger, which is a good segue into the next point I'd like to make about bow ties. That one's by Hilfiger. This one's by Ralph Lauren. Okay, bow ties, J Press, all summer ties, but you go by what looks good. You know, you go by what looks good. Okay, don't go too much by the label. There'll be cheap ties that you know, if you've learned what you should have learned about foreign hand ties, you'll know to stay away from cheap ties. This one illustrates my point more. This was made by an outfit called Bancroft. Bancroft made beautiful ties. Beautiful, beautiful ties. And they've been out of business quite a while. My friend's father used to get them, Joe Lynch. Nice ties. And I buy them on eBay actually because it's the only way to get one of to get a Bancroft tie now. You know, you got to buy a second-hand, vintage, whatever you want to call it. And then this one is from Joseph A. Bank. Now, I show the Joseph A. Bank one for a reason. I'm not a big fan of Joseph A. Bank in general. I don't want to disparage them. Maybe you like them. However, their ties tend to be much nicer than their suits, strangely. It must be the designer or whoever, but they make very nice stuff in neckties, or at least they did. This tie, was actually made in China. I've been boycotting China for quite a while, and I suggest you do too. And they make a lot of junk. I've had stuff ties they just gave away because you couldn't wear them. So, you got to be aware of that. On the other hand, there are, you can find a nice tie anywhere. And, example. That's actually purple. I don't have the color balanced on this, and I don't know how. And then there were some classics. First of all, beautiful tie from my past. J Press. Beautiful navy and gold bow tie. And then we get into Brooks Brothers. And Brooks Brothers, I have mostly stripes. There's a solid in Brooks Brothers. Sort of maroon. But here. These are all Brooks Brothers ties. All in classic stripe patterns. And Brooks Brothers made nice things years ago. I have no opinion on their current production. I will tell you that they got bought back in the 1940s by Julius Garfinkel and Company, which was a Washington, D.C. clothier. And if anything, Garfinkel put the brand back in the right direction. They were never overpriced, though they had been in the 1920s very overpriced. No, when Garfinkel's owned it, you got value for your money, you got quality, you got style. And they had great sales twice a year. I think twice a year. I remember going there around New Year's. Great sales. No rip-off. It was not quote-unquote designer merchandise, right? Garfinkel sold Brooks Brothers to Marks and Spencer. The quality went down immediately. It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same beautiful experience. A lot of the personnel stayed there. There was a wonderful man, Mr. McDonough. Oh, I love that man. He was a very fine salesman. And he was working in Brooks Brothers for many years. Well, worked there till he died. I believe, or shortly before. He was a great man. And, Brooks Brothers was the same in some ways. But really, it went off the rails when it wasn't as good, but it went off the rails when Luxottica or a member of that family bought it. The same people that brought you crappier eyeglasses than you had before, but they're called designer and they're 5 times the price. I mean, they wrecked Brooks Brothers. And in the end, looted the business, cheated their suppliers. I'm told there was a lawsuit anyway. Stuck a bunch of their unsaleable junk in a warehouse and then declared bankruptcy, stiffed the guy that owned the warehouse. I mean, what they did was they tried to make Brooks Brothers into a brand, a designer brand. It never was a designer brand. It was an upscale, reliable men's clothier. So you can't just look at the thing and say, hey, Brooks Brothers, it's Brooks Brothers. Because, it hasn't really been the same since Marks and Spencer got it, but they did minor damage when I think the name is Del Vecchio. After they took it over, it was a train wreck. And then, they ran it into bankruptcy, in my opinion. The nail in the coffin was probably COVID, but hey, now they belong to a real estate holding company. And I have bought a couple of items from them that turned out to be made in China. Still charging the prices, though, So I would have to say you can't go by brand names. I would say don't ever buy anything made in China, although some of it's actually quite nice, because our national survival depends on, hey, that's a nice wide one, huh? That's a beautiful tie. And that was one of the ones from Bow Ties of Vermont. Last thing I'm going to try and do is I am going to try and tie a bow tie, which I'm going to pause it for a second, and then I'm going to tie a bow tie with no shirt on. Okay, how do I pause this? You know what? I'll just take any bow tie. I can't figure out how to pause the camera. I'm really an amateur at this. See, one end's longer than the other, goes around. Not an amateur at dressing, though. And I don't sell anything. A lot of these videos, these guys, they're all salesmen for their own product. And they're just like a shoe. I want you to see that. Just like a shoe. And then you shape it. Everything's in the shaping. Okay? It's hard for me to do because I'm not using a mirror. I'm using the video camera, the screen on my PC, and everything is backwards. But there, look at that. I tied a bow tie. And you get the idea. I could shape it nicer, but I need a mirror for that. And that's all there is to it. If you've been holding off on bow ties because you don't know how to tie them, do you tie your shoes? Because it's the same thing. The trick is in the shaping. You got to shape it once you get it on. And once it looks like a bow, you should pull on the rounded ends. The ends that have been folded. Otherwise the tie will come apart. And then you can shape it from there. Okay, so guys, I'm going to try and upload this if it's any good. Let me know what you think. If I do any good, I will make a video about foreign-hand ties, and then I can go into hats, belts, suits. Got 38 suits. I could do it all day. Anyway, thank you very much.